Honda's season so far certainly hasn't played out the way we thought it would. There's no doubt that Honda are on the back foot, and honestly their road to where they find themselves now has had more twists and turns than we can even fathom. But if anyone can drag themselves out of a slump, it's Honda. To truly set up Honda's 2022 story, we have to look back to the pre-season tests and the overwhelming positivity that was felt by all at Honda. They unveiled a new bike, their single biggest redesign in their modern MotoGP history, and what we all thought was that it was a bike that worked well right from the off. It had the foundations of something that had real potential to take Honda back to the top, and on the opening night in Qatar, it proved that. The menacing smiles at Honda after Pol Espargaro raced to third and Marc Marquez raced to fifth were evident, but perhaps more attention should have been paid to the struggles of the LCR duo Taka Nakagami and Alex Marquez. While Taka finished a solid 10th, Alex crashed out at turn 1, his third crash of the weekend. If MotoGP's first trip to Mandalika wasn't dramatic enough with the rain and learning a new circuit, Marc Marquez made Honda's weekend even more so. His mammoth high side was a real marker of where Honda's season went from early promise and hope to frustration and misfortune. With the crash resulting in another case of diplopia, Marc was sidelined for the following race in Argentina too. On the other side of the garage, Pol was frustrated at their turn of form as Honda riders, whether Repsol or LCR, couldn't find the pre-season testing feeling that they had in Indonesia over the Grand Prix weekend. And with the rain on Sunday, none finished inside the top 10. Argentina was a similar story, with Taka Nakagami being Honda's leading light all the way back in 12th. Marc returned for the Americas GP, and his return was truly epic. At a place where he is king, Marc did eventually lose his crown, but it certainly wasn't for the reasons all of his own doing. After an electronic glitch off the start line, he raced from dead last all the way to 6th. But while Marc masked Honda's problems once again, it was the other Hondas that showed the true story. While Pol was the next best in 13th, he suffered from illness all weekend, and so a 13th deserved far more than just a well done and a pat on the back. But again, the LCR duo struggled to get anywhere near Honda's main man Marc Marquez, and it was at this point where what we thought we knew about Honda's new machine really started to change script. Portimao was really the first race where the narrative coming out of Honda was much more clear that they have problems. Until this point, it had been a question of that they just needed more time to find the keys to the new bike, but after complaining of a lack of grip, turning and acceleration all weekend, Honda's troubles were now clearly seen. Interestingly, Portimao was Alex Marquez's best weekend of the season as he crossed the line in 7th, just behind his brother. Pol Espargaro crossed the line 9th, less than a second behind Alex, and incredibly, it was his last top 10 of the first half of the season. Jerez saw more Marc Marquez magic. With the Honda's struggles now public knowledge, his 4th place at the Spanish GP was a ride worthy of so much more than just 13 points. That weekend was also the point where we saw Taka Nakagami take a huge stride forward. We know that Taka is a big fan of Jerez. He's had some of his best rides in MotoGP there, but it seemed there was something more than just heading to a track he liked. He made a clear step forward, and whatever it was, it allowed him to qualify 7th and then finish 7th, and better yet, it kicked off a nice run of form for Taka. The French GP was anything but a quiet weekend as far as the fans were concerned, but for Honda it certainly was quiet. Once again, Marc managed to do enough to be Honda's first rider home, but a 6th place isn't the positions that Marc expects to be fighting for. For the second race in succession, Taka finished 7th and continued his progression with the new RC213V, despite complaints from his Honda stablemates that they encountered varying problems depending on the time the session was during the day. Mugello saw Taka once again ride home to a solid top 10, and this time he was actually Honda's first rider across the line. But in Mugello, the attention at Honda fell to Marc, as it was announced during the weekend that he would undergo a 4th surgery on his arm as a final attempt to free him of the pain and suffering he had been going through ever since he initially broke it back at Jerez in 2020. Valiantly he battled to 10th, and on the cool-down lap it was evident the outpouring of support and sympathy that the riders showed towards Marc. With the 8-time world champion now starting his recovery at home, all we can do is wish him the very best of luck, as a Marc Marquez free of pain and back to 100% health is something we haven't seen in a very long time.
It was difficult to finish the race, but we finished. Now next week I have the most important race of the season. That is that operation on my right humerus, and let's see if everything goes well, and step by step come back.
At the next race in Barcelona, test rider Stefan Bradl was once again called upon to step in for the absent Marc. It really has to be said how impressive it is that Bradl can step in at a moment's notice and lap within a second and a half of the world's very best riders. Unfortunately, Honda's Sunday in Barcelona was far from ideal. A lap 1 turn 1 incident saw Nakagami's race over before it had started, and then Bradl didn't make it around the first lap either, as Alex Marquez was Honda's sole finisher in 10th. By Germany, any remaining luck that Honda had left turned to bad luck. For the first time in 633 races, a run stretching back over 40 years, Honda missed out on scoring any points. It's something that occurred certainly not for a lack of trying. Pol Espargaro battled his way through 22 laps of unbearable pain before retiring from the race as he couldn't take any more after his huge crash earlier in the weekend. Alex Marquez also pulled into the pits early in the race, and then not long after, Taka slid out of 10th place. Still feeling the effects of his German GP crash, Pol withdrew from the Dutch GP after FP2, leaving the LCR duo to go it alone on Sunday to pick up a small handful of points in 12th and 15th. Quite simply, the 2022 season has seen some of Honda's darkest days in their history. A bike that wasn't quite up to the standard they first thought, illness, injuries and a whole load of bad luck. The odds are quite unfairly stacked against them. But Honda have built some of the greatest bikes in Grand Prix history, and surely it's only a matter of time before they make the breakthrough they need with their latest project. It may seem a long way off right now, but Honda's world-beating best won't be relegated to the history books forever.
Hi guys, I'm Marc Marquez. Make sure like and subscribe for more.